When we turn.
Your turn?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Medyo na po. 2 p.m. Tone down the volume here.
What?
This one, it's like the radio headset.
Oh, yeah. This VR one. Oh, good.
Portrait he did of a lawyer and refugee advocate called Deng Adut. But here Nick is revisiting a subject, a person that he's painted before. This is David Stratton, who is the film critic, film writer, host of the movie show. He's retired now. And the first portrait that Nick entered into the Archibald of David Stratton was in 2008, so some time ago now. And the portrait was a sort of I guess a sort of comical look at David Stratton. It was him in a movie theatre asleep when he's supposed to be, I don't know, watching a film or reviewing a film. It was a lovely portrait. This year he's revisited, as I said, painting. I really love this painting. I think some people find the style unusual. I think it's great. It's a portrait by an artist called Drew Bickford, and he has painted the artist collective called Soda Jerk, and we see their name here. Soda Jerk are siblings who work together. They were born in Sydney, but they now live and work in New York. And Soda Jerk work in film themselves. It's a very compelling work, and I think a lot of that for me is down to the way she's painted his eyes. There's something that as a viewer I feel very drawn into his gaze. So the not-for-profit organisation called Teach Us Consent. So Chanel started a petition a few years ago where she invited people to write in, to tell their stories. And I thought that Whitney had made the work out of fabric. And I know that, as I said, there has to be a painterly element, paint to it, but I thought maybe she used a little bit, because if you come in close, you can see the edges here. They're really frayed, like fabric really well actually. This carpet here, this is a carpet, is really well painted. If you come in and have a look at it afterwards, very, very well painted. This is a portrait of Missy Higgins. So Missy Higgins, of course, is a very well-known singer-songwriter. She was recently in Sydney actually doing some concerts, and she has been painted by her sister, Nicola Higgins. It's actually not the smallest work that we have hanging on the Archibald this year. When I say it's even the second smallest, it might be. I'll show you the smallest one when we get to the last room. But it's a work by Natasha Bainick, who's been hung in the Archibald many, many times before. This year, Natasha's work is in this prize, the Archibald, but she's also got a work hanging in the Wynne and the Sulman. So she's one of only 2 artists this year that have got a work in all 3 prizes. It's quite a big deal. There's people this year in the Archibald. We might have 2. Usually we have a lot more, but we do have Courtney Vine, the portrait of Courtney Vine this year, who of course was part of the Matilda squad last year that really, I think, captured the national attention with their quest through the FIFA World Cup. Courtney, very memorably, in the quarterfinal against France, came off the bench at the 104th minute and kicked the penalty goal that got Australia through. She was 10th in the lineup for that penalty goal. She said that moment when she came off the bench of any of the portraits that we've got hanging in the Archibald this year, it's a portrait of the actor Jacob Elordi, Australian actor, and it's by Caroline Zelinsky. Caroline's style is, I guess, quite unique. It's a work that I have not seen this sort of style portrayed again over and over. She's definitely got her own sort of feeling about things. She often does figures with these very elongated torsos, long torsos, long necks, very long arms, and then what's called foreshortening or shortened legs. So when we look at Jacob Elordi, obviously it's not sort of anatomically correct the way the winning work for the Archibald. There's the People's Choice Award, which is still open for us to vote in. We can all vote in that as members of the public. And there's the Packing Room Prize, which I might stand here. And this year, the winning work, as judged by the Packing Room team, is this beautiful portrait of Baker Boy by Matt Abnate. The reason that the Packing Room team get their own prize is because the judging for the Archibald actually happens in this room that we're standing in over a weekend. So it just happens over a Saturday and Sunday. And long trestle tables are set up in this room with all the Board of Trustees. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's 11 of them. The Packing Room team unpack all the artworks as they come in. They're the first people in the gallery to see the artworks, and they walk past the Board of Trustees. Julian Assange, he was not yet back in Australia. This is all unfolded since this portrait's been hanging in the Archibald. Julian Assange was still in Belmarsh prison in the UK, where he was held for 5 years. Sean has been a really long-term friend, supporter of Julian, ever since he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for 7 years. And he wanted to paint him for the Archibald Prize. It was a slightly more complicated journey to do the sitting, of course, because Julian being in Belmarsh. So the artist had to fly to the UK. It took several months actually to get the paperwork together. For me, these works really sum up, I guess, what the Archibald is about, the essence of it, and how so many different artists and different styles can get a look in this prize. This is a work here by Laura Peacock. She's a first-time entrant, first time being hung. She's painted Peter O'Neill, who is her friend. She had absolutely no intention of painting this for the Archibald Prize. She really painted it to commemorate and to celebrate her friendship with Peter. She's painted the work on a piece of brown paper, a brown paper bag, basically, that she took to the sitting. She said she never spends a lot of money on fancy material. She uses relatively cheap acrylic paint and literally whatever materials she has at hand. So she went to Peter's house with this brown paper bag, which she ripped open, and as she opened it, she said she wasn't really paying attention. She ripped it, and then she was like, actually, I kind of like the edges because it's a bit like a face, like the profile of a face. And she was like, this is kind of funny. Maybe it's like a sign that I'm going to get into the Archibald. Like they were sort of, joking. She did the portrait thinking that would be the sketch artist. And Keenon is very different to Laura Starr. He's a woodblock carver and painter. So this entire work, another one to come right up and have a look at afterwards, is a block of wood that he has hand carved all of these little intricate pieces. Her whole figure, the dress, the flowers, the artworks behind her, he's carved into the wood, and then he's gone over the top and painted it. So wood carving is a very painstaking, very detailed way of working. Keenon said it's sort of torture for him. He loves it, but sort of halfway through he's always like, why did I start this? So incredibly detailed. The works behind Margaret are her own artwork we have in the Archibald. This is the work of Sarah Hannaford. She has been in the Archibald 10 times, and she's painted her father, Robert Hannaford, and he has been in the Archibald 27 times. So he's a very significant artist based in South Australia, and his daughter is sort of hot on his heels now. They both paint in oil. So the portrait that she's done of her dad, I think for me, when I think about oil paint, I mean, actually this wall's a good example. The oils that you see here, there's a sort of a glossy luminosity to it, if that makes sense. The way the light is hitting, bouncing off his forehead, that's really because of, I mean, it's very well painted, but it's because of this afternoon, of course, with the painting that has won the Archibald Prize. We've talked about the Packing Room Prize. The People's Choice Award is just through the corridor here. That's something that we can all vote in. Trustees that vote. Once they choose the finalists, the 57, there's a little bit of, I guess, negotiation, argy-bargy about which work is going to win. The winning works in the Archibald are not always unanimous, but this year it was. So this year all the judges agreed that this portrait of Tim Winton, the novelist Tim Winton, is the winner. This work is again oil paint, so we talked about oil paint a little bit earlier. You can see that sort of shine to it, slipperiness. Sometimes when I look at this portrait of Tim Winton, I feel like his whole figure's going to whoosh off the canvas. There's a sort of a lightness to it, I would say. Laura is a big fan of Tim Winton, not only because of his novels, his writing, but also because he is an environmental activist. He's very concerned, particularly with the conservation of the Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia. He produced and narrated a documentary recently about the Ningaloo Reef, which Laura saw. She was really inspired by what he was doing, so she reached out to him, and because of their mutual...
Galing.
Polly Pocket.
Yeah. May entry sa art.
Like that. Parang hindi mo rin alam kung anong mapipili nila.
Oo, mahirap.
Hindi sila pumipili na traditional painting. Ano gagawin ko?
Oo, boboto ka. Wrong people's choice in here.